and welcome to my Bloodborne, the Dappervania Chronicles series. This is Chapter 0, the tutorial, and here to help is Julius Belmont. Say hi, Julius. Now then, this video is intended for anyone new to From Software Souls-style games, and also anyone who has an interest in these kind of games and is coming from a background in Castlevania, which I'll get back to in a bit. But for now, let's go over the controls and then a bit of combat. The left analog stick is used for movement, while the right analog stick is used for the camera. The circle button is used for evasive actions. For example, without using the analog stick, you perform a back step. Moving in the direction allows you to perform an evasive roll, and holding the circle button while moving allows you to sprint. R1 is used for standard attacks, while R2 produces stronger attacks. You might have noticed during those actions that the green bar on the top left depleted. That bar is the stamina bar, and since stamina governs your offensive and defensive actions, it's best to approach combat in consideration of the amount of room you have to work with, so you can attack, dodge, and recover easily. The R2 attack, which is strong attack, is also chargeable, and that is used for initiating a backstab, which we'll use on the opponent in this next room. Now, when you have an opponent in range, clicking the right thumbstick will produce this white dot on them, and also the life bar, so this is your lock on. When you're locked on, the defensive roll is changed to a quick step. These are all the basics of combat, so let's get down to it. Now, for most From Software games, they have a nice tutorial area, but for this one we have a nice werewolf instead. As you can see, it moves rather unpredictably, and in this crowded room, you really have to be careful of exactly how you're moving, when you can move. Werewolf attacks quickly when you're close, and from attacking from behind, we can sort of stun lock it rapidly with weak hits. Ooh. As you can see, I dodged through that attack there. So actions like your roll and your quick step have invincibility frames. Use these to help you get around enemies, as well as attacks. Since our standard attacks aren't doing much damage to this, we shall... Ooh. We'll try to score a backstab using a charged attack. There, did you hear that sound? There's a very distinct sound when you gain a visceral opportunity, and one of the ways of gaining a visceral opportunity is to perform a backstab. Once you hear the sound and the enemy is stunned, move behind them and press R1. Now, going back to why I mentioned anyone coming from a Castlevania background, I imagine that this kind of gothic environment might attract a few people playing Castlevania. And if not, well, when I get to the weapons, maybe I can just pique your interest a little bit more. But for now, we actually have to get to our weapons. Excuse me, sir. Pressing X allows you to interact with the environment. The standard. Excuse me. And holding circle allows you to run up ladders quicker. Very nice sound. Now, you can actually fight on the ladders using R1 and R2, but it's not really recommended. Throughout Yharnam, you might see houses with these red lanterns outside. Oops. And also, you see these purple lamps. These lamps effectively act as checkpoints and allow us to return to the Hunter's Dream, which we'll do shortly. As soon as I, This guy isn't gonna let us go back so easily, is he? Now, one thing I do want to mention is that your visceral attacks, if I can actually score on this guy, In previous From Software games, your visceral sort of backstab critical hits, the damage from those are governed from your weapon. In this game, the damage is governed by your character level, as well as any runes that you have equipped. I believe the skill stat, and also whatever blood gems you have slotted to your weapon, may affect that damage. Wow. It really doesn't want to let me go back to home screen. There we go. As you can see, the visceral attack happens with your bare hand, explaining why you don't use your weapon's damage for it. Anyway. So basically, to explain my interest in the series and why Dappervania at all, in the week leading up to the release of Bloodborne, I was already really excited, but of course I had to spoil it myself. Running on some websites, looking at the starter weapons, I noticed there was one weapon that was very, very Castlevania-esque, and yet at the same time very, very dapper. Since none of the streamers up prior to 1 week before the release of the game were using this weapon, the anticipation to have it in my hand was just... it was too much almost, man. But here it is. This is gonna be what makes our hunter a Dappervania hunter. So what is this? So yeah, when you first come to the hunter's dream, you can come up these steps and you can pick up your first trick weapon, your firearm, and also a notebook for online. Depending on whether or not you've defeated an enemy, I'm not sure if it has to be the werewolf or just any enemy, but these doors will open into the hunter workshop. For now, what we're interested in, of course, is... is our fretted cane. Concealing the weapon inside the cane and flogging the beasts with the whip is partly an act of ceremony. What whip, you ask? Oh, maybe this one that's just hiding in here? Yeah. Okay, so let's go over things. So R1 does your standard attacks. With the fretted cane, the series of slashes. They are fast, they're not quite as fast as say the saw cleaver, but they'll be pretty decent. Otherwise, they have pretty decent poise damage, so you can get behind most weak enemies and use it to stun lock. The R2 is a thrust type attack. It comes out semi-quickly, combos nicely from the backhand in combos. Let's see, there's also backstep attack, which is a sort of slash you can use for quickly getting out the enemy's range and then back in. Backstep R2, which is another type of thrust attack. You're rolling R1, which is a horizontal swipe. You're dashing R1, a more vertical swipe. Dashing R2, which is the stab attack. Okay, now, anytime you're performing an action such as, attacking or rolling, and then you press, alright, I should probably, yeah. So L1 is weapon change. Anytime you're moving or attacking, and you press that button, you can perform weapon change attacks. And those are constantly chainable. You can even chain weapon change attacks into weapon change attacks. But they are what will essentially give your weapons more versatility and also make it harder for enemies to predict when you're going to use it. And basically, it's one of the reasons I really like this cane and makes it versatile. So in the cane's whip mode, the R1 becomes a series of pretty decent crowd controlling slashes. The R2 is wider, stronger. Thing about these attacks are they are laggy, as you can see. The whip needs time to unfurl and then refurl, so you have to pay attention to that. The backstep R1, short thrust attack. Backstep R2, a much longer one. There's the dashing R1, which is a sort of down to up horizontal slash. The dashing R1, which goes from higher to lower horizontal slash. and the dashing R2. So I should also mention with weapons, if you tap forward on the left stick and R2 the strong attack at the same time, you can perform a jumping attack. Okay, so let's see other things to go over. Oh yeah, so anyone who's coming from the old From Software Souls games, please be aware that weapon change, which includes two-handing for your weapons, is now on L1. Now I know previously it was on triangle, but triangle now does your life recovery, so be careful with that. L2, as I said, oh, I haven't actually gone through L2, have I? L2 governs your actions with your left hand. Since I only have a gun right now, I'll fire the weapon. Now, you get a choice between a pistol and the blunderbuss in the beginning. I generally choose the pistol because there's a faster draw time, faster recovery, so if I mess up I can quickly roll out the way. The blunderbuss does have an easier time hitting enemies, but I generally use firearms for parrying, and it doesn't matter where you hit enemy with your projectile to parry them. And you might say, well, if you got a great spread of projectiles from the blunderbuss, surely it must be easier. Generally, with the parry timings, the enemy center of mass is going to be lined up with the Hunter pistol anyway, so it should be okay. But yeah, the reason why I love the threaded cane, it's got a lot of versatility. Some nice attacks. It's got a really nice transform attack from the whip to the sword, as you can see. It might not have the strength of the Hunter's axe, allowing you to sort of just stun and pound your enemies in the ground or knock them back with the two-hander R2. It might have the speed of the saw cleaver, but in the sword mode, it does have bonus righteous damage, which is only useful really in the Castle Canehurst area, or what I like to call Castlevania. But in the whip mode, the serrated blades do in fact provide the 20% bonus damage to beasts, which is quite handy. And it gives you a really nice Castlevania flavor. So yeah, this has been Chapter 0, a tutorial to how to dapper it up. I hope you've enjoyed this, and please look forward to Part 1, The Hunter City, soon. Thanks for watching, and peace out.